Hi Brian, this is Andrew, and this is my Swift. Now the biggest problem I'm experiencing is that when the Swift is in 8th gear and I spin the crank, I am getting lots of vibration and grinding, especially when I crank on the pedals. Now this vibration seems to be coming from back here. It's kind of resonating through the frame, and what I noticed is that the chain, when it's in the 8th gear, and I don't know if you can really tell it in the video, but it tends to rub against the side of the frame, because the chain, especially when I'm cranking hard, will bounce and hit the frame just here. As you can see, the chain's actually touching the frame, and there's no separation between the chain and the frame, so it creates a bounce. Second place it hits is between the chain and 7th gear. Now when it's actually in 7th gear, you don't hear any noise, but when it's in 8th, you can just see that the link part, or the little shaft that goes through each link, will bounce and hit the cog or the tooth on the sprocket of the 7th. Now, when I'm turning this, it doesn't seem so bad, but when there's weight on the bike and when I'm really trying to go fast, it creates a very loud noise, vibration that can be heard not only by me on the bike, but by people riding behind me. And yeah, so that's the problem. Now, originally I had a bent derailleur mount, which I had replaced. It's got a brand new one right here, and it's straight now. And the derailleur has been adjusted by both myself and 2 different bike shops at this point. And none of them have really been able to get the sound to go away. Only the best they can do is, the way it is now. So I was wondering if you had any ideas on how to solve this, because it's really getting kind of annoying, and I'm pretty sure that it robs me of speed. Now I don't know if you can tell from this video, but right now the way it's set up, the chain right here is touching the tooth right there directly, so that's causing rubbing. And then, like I said, if I forward the chain a little bit, you can see that there's a very small clearance between the chain and the frame. You'll see it kind of appearing and disappearing, but then the chain itself will bounce off the frame, causing rubbing and a grinding sound. The other thing I was kind of concerned about is, like, when it's in 8th gear, whether or not the crank wheel here is properly aligned with the chain. And from the looks of it, it is. It doesn't seem to be making too much of a difference. It looks like the teeth on the crank wheel actually hit pretty much the center of the chain, which at first glance I thought might be responsible for making the grinding noise if they're slightly offside. But if I get in, try to get a clear image here. So for example, looking at this one, I don't know if you can see in the video, but it seems like the spoke of the, not the spoke, but the tooth of the chain is more, the tooth on the crank wheel is closer to this side of the chain than it is to this side of the chain. But it's still pretty centered, and I can see a small gap between the tooth and the chain, so that's not really making too much noise. So most of the problem, most of the grinding sound that I tried to describe is coming from both the chain hitting the frame and the chain hitting the cog, the 7th speed. Now I'm not really sure how much more I can adjust the derailleur. Obviously the travel screws, prevent it from sliding off and changing in between gears, but it's not enough to adjust the screws to keep it from hitting both the frame and the tooth. If there is a very small sweet spot there, I haven't been able to find it. So, I hope that this helps to explain the problem that I've been seeing, and let me know what you think if you have a solution. Thanks. One other thing I wanted to do was to kind of go through the gears from first to eighth and show you how the rest of them sound compared to eighth. So right now I'm in first gear. I set the camera down so that I can actually turn the crank. And this looks and sounds pretty normal to me. So we'll go to second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Seventh. So you can start hearing some rattle now, even though I think it's more or less okay. And then eighth. Now what I'm seeing is, there's I'm seeing a lot of chain bounce when I'm in eighth, and that's obviously because it's hitting both the sprocket and the frame itself. Chain is bouncing both up and down and left and right, so that could be responsible for some of the noise. And if you look at I don't know if you can see the lower part of the chain when it comes back from the crank wheel, that's not bouncing, it's going straight. So whatever's causing it to vibrate like this way and both up and down is obviously happening up here. And while I'm spinning it like this, it might not make much of a noise, but when I'm actually going on the road under load and I'm trying to go fast, it's making a much louder and much more pronounced sound.